Hi folks, it's John from lastchanceautorestore.com. I'd like to share with you another update. We're standing with the 1950 Ford F47 pickup, very similar to the US version, the F1. In a previous video, we shared with you where we had the engine all assembled, or mostly assembled. We didn't have the intake on it. We were just ready to bolt the transmission on. So we shared with you where we had the engine, the machined flywheel, we had the transmission ready to bolt up. So since then we've made an incredible amount of progress. It's been really noisy in the shop, so we're just going to basically do one big update with the tremendous amount of work that we've accomplished. So the water pumps arrived, we bolted the water pumps onto the front, and that's where the mounting points go for the front of the chassis. So then we had the clutch pressure plate and release bearing installed, and you saw in the last video. So then we bolted the transmission to the engine, and then we installed the engine transmission as a complete unit back into the chassis with the cab. And then we've done an incredible amount of work here. You can see we now have along the side we have our exhaust manifold. They've been sandblasted and treated with the correct cast color ceramic high heat paint. So this is on the driver's side, and then we have, obviously the camera person goes around to the passenger side. You can see the other exhaust manifold. You'll notice we have new hardware bolting the exhaust manifold to the engine block. And then up above we get into some nice detail work. We have the intake that's been nicely painted, installed. You can see, and it's the detail that I really like. If you notice the top of the block, between the intake and the block, you can see the gasket material. I really like this detail. Most people want to assemble the whole engine and then just spray. It's much easier. You just spray the whole engine when everything is done. But I really like this detail. You can notice that the intake bolts, we wire brushed them all. We've painted them all black. And it just gives you a nice detail look on the top. You can see on the top here, we've replaced the fuel pump and the fuel pump glass reservoir. These are very, very difficult to locate, and we have the authentic original, so it's a direct copy, it's a reproduction of the original. This is a very, very nice detail to have, in my opinion, where you have the glass filter here, and then you have it coming into the fuel pump and then attached. So we really like that detail. And then you'll notice as we come closer to the front, this big guy here, this radiator, we mentioned earlier where it was damaged and it was leaking in several locations. So what we've done is we've sent it out to our preferred Radiator Rebuild shop, and basically what they did is they changed it from a 2-core rad to a heavy-duty 4-core rad. Excuse me. So it looks all original, but it's basically going to have over double the cooling capacity, but it's the original tank and the original side brackets, and basically everything inside and under that cap and on the bottom is brand new. So we really like the way this turned out, and then we applied the correct satin black. And if the camera person comes around to the front of the radiator, where there was several cuts and bronze welds and damage along this front, it's now all been repaired and it looks factory correct now. And then obviously the small detail of the new radiator cap. Excuse me. And then when we look at the front of the engine, you can see we have our tube, our vent tube. It's been all sanded and painted the correct black. If you recall in earlier videos, the other fellows painted this engine blue, and a lot of the blue paint was peeling off. It's incorrect for this Canadian Flathead 8. So now we have the proper black here. We've sanded and painted the thermostat housings and the thermostat tubes, and then we're just getting things lined up. So a lot of things are just dry fitted here in the engine bay area. You can see there's a hint of our heater box because we have our 2 copper lines sticking out through the firewall and the 3 bolts there on the passenger side of the firewall, because we have, and we'll share in the next video, we have the heater box assembly, and the rebuilt core is pre-assembled inside the truck also. And then quite dramatic, as we come a little back here a little bit, excuse me, so here we have the front end, and It's all just dry fitted in, so we just have some of the nuts and bolts. You can see on the floor here, we've got a lot of hardware kind of laid out and set out for us. So what we did is we just dry fitted the front fenders on, because we showed you in a previous video where we were painting a lot of these components while we're waiting for the water pumps to come. So we continue with the getting ready for the reassembly, and there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes to get to this stage. Because we shared with you much earlier on where we did the correct grille backing and headlight housing, painting it correct in the beige or the cream color. And this is a correct Ford color. The black, other than being quite dusty, this black is the authentic Ford black. They're solid black, so it's really, you can see the contrast now coming together, where you have the beige inset, I'm probably in the way, the beige inset of the grille assembly, and then it matching obviously the cab. So then all of these separate components, they're just, we just kind of set the fenders on, and we're setting all of these panels together, and then later we're going to be doing a lot of adjusting and tightening. But basically you start with this top header piece, which is original for the truck. It's the steel header from 1950, and then we've polished these individual letters, and then after they were polished and cleaned, we assembled these letters first because they're quite difficult to gain access to later. And then we shared with you where we added the chrome to the grille assembly beforehand. And then basically from here, once the top of the fenders were pre-hung, then we set in this top header panel, and then we set in the grille and there's numerous bolts. There's got to be a couple hundred, I guess, to do this front end. So just started to dry fit that to get it in its position. And then we put this lower panel in, this filler panel that goes between these two lower halves of the fender. So we bolted the lower half to the top half just loose, and then put this filler panel in along here. So now you can see the detail. It's really coming along. Still a long way to go, and we're still preparing other panels to continue with the reassembly. So we'll share with you updates as this build continues. So this is the 1950 Ford F47 pickup truck, and I'm John from lastchanceautorestore.com.